Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, May 20th, and we are live with the Morning Mint. We're very, very excited this morning. We've got some very special guests, and I'm going to be inviting them to go live with us in just a second. We are going to be talking today all about New Jersey, so very, very exciting, the sixth borough, and I'll be inviting Natalie Miniard, who is our New Jersey broker of record, and Paul Witte, local expert, into the room. So very, very excited about them, and we'll be getting them on board in just a second. Into the room, and welcome Paul. They're just going to get them right into the room. They should be here in just a second. Hey, Natalie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome. Welcome.
Happy to be here.
How's your morning going?
So far, so good. I got my tea.
Tea is in
Starting at my phone set up.
Paul, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Phil?
Paul, we need you to shift your video a little bit because you're looking sideways to me.
There we go.
There we go.
This
awesome. That's perfect.
I'm not a morning person.
Are you a tea person or a coffee person?
Coffee, for sure.
Coffee, for sure. It's funny. So Natalie's tea, your coffee. I'm a neither. I usually just do water.
I'm whatever can get the caffeine. I mean, I mean, equal opportunist. This morning was tea. So.
That's awesome.
This thing's not staying.
All right. So without further ado, let's get started. So first, we're gonna talk about some of the real estate related news going on in and around North Jersey. So Paul, let's talk a little bit about something that's really interesting, which is the $230 million plan from Hoboken to basically stop flooding in the city.
Yeah, I mean, for people that don't know, Hoboken got hit really hard by Hurricane Sandy. It's the whole city basically is a flood zone. So, it's kind of a win in two ways for Hoboken in that they're getting that additional flood mitigation, but then they're also getting an extra park as well. And that really is like prime real estate right up there. That's where like the nicest condo buildings in Hoboken are, all the Toll Brothers buildings. So there's a lot of young families. I think that it's going to be a big plus for the Hoboken community, but especially for the flood mitigation. If they're spending that kind of money on the infrastructure, then that should really benefit the city as well in case another storm like Sandy happens again.
Right, of course. I mean, that's got to be a welcome relief to anyone who was here during Sandy and is maybe scared about something similar happening again. And I know that in Lower Manhattan, they put in place a number of measures to make sure that if a storm like that would ever happen again, that there were at least protections for some of the buildings and ways to make sure that the basements didn't flood again. Was that pretty similar in Hoboken? Yeah,
it's, I know that Hoboken's been doing a lot to try to mitigate that kind of stuff going forward because it's supposed to be once in a 100-year storm, but it seems like those storms happen, somewhat frequently over the first 20 years over 2000. So it's a win for Hoboken. If they develop that into more condos, I don't think that would benefit anybody. Whereas making it a park and that sort of infrastructure improvement is better for the residents, I would say.
So if I'm hearing what you're saying right, it's not just a dam or something that they're building. It's actually going to be a park that's going to help mitigate the floods.
Exactly. I'm sorry if I didn't clarify that. Coffee has not kicked in yet, but yeah, it's a combination of the two. So it's going to be green space for the young families that are up there.
That's amazing. It sounds like a great new addition, which has sort of a double use case.
Definitely.
It's going to be a model for other areas throughout the country. I think it's really exciting to see this finally taking shape. Jersey City also has made some changes. You mentioned new buildings. I know one of the buildings I worked at, they put a boat launch in, so that if there was ever an issue of having to get people out of the building, there was actually this space that a boat could pull up and get people out. So there have definitely been changes to code. since.
I have never heard of that before. Wait,
Yeah.
so what floor is the boat launch on?
It's on. It's like it's up. It's on the first floor, but it's actually set up to where a boat could float up to it and get people out. So there definitely were changes to developers' plans after Sandy.
Wow, that is both scary and I mean I
Yes.
can't imagine it. It's sort of like how they have like lifeboats, on like a
Yes.
cruise ship or something. Imagine just having a lifeboat on your your
Pretty
apartment
much.
building.
Yeah.
Wow. Something else that's interesting is the Real Deal just reported that 14% of restaurants closed permanently during the pandemic, and I remember mid-pandemic, there were a number of predictions that, oh, we're going to lose this. There were people saying that the city could lose half of its restaurants. So that's actually lower than people initially thought. Natalie, you're a local restaurant owner. What do you think about that?
I think that there are a lot of studies. I think that may be one. I think that if you look at a study that came out with Yelp, Yelp is saying that out of the 24,000 restaurants that they're, collecting the data from, close to half of those are not going to reopen. So I'd be curious to know exactly, where they pulled all the data from. And I think that we're still very early in seeing what the residual effects of this. I think there's still restaurants that think they're going to reopen, that may even try, and are really going to have a hard time. We managed, and I got to give a shout out to my partner, Tori Anspa. He was the brains, the brawn behind keeping us afloat through all of this. I'm the real estate person. He deals with the restaurants. And, I know how hard he worked throughout to pivot and change our menus. There was a lot of support for restaurants out there, but there was a lot of red tape with it. And, I do think that it's not just about what we were able to get through before. We've managed to now, Murphy opened up and we can start, opening as we see fit. That doesn't mean people are going to pour in. Even pre-COVID, margins are so low in restaurants, especially ones without liquor licenses. And so, during COVID, all of our costs went way up. People don't think about things like all of our cleaning supplies have gone up by 4 to 5%, 4 to 5 times.
Wow.
A case of gloves used to cost us $22 to $25 a case. It's now $100 to $110 a case. Chicken has almost doubled. I mean, everything that we need in a restaurant, the prices have gone up. Now, will the clientele be okay with paying the extra money to have that, amenity for the neighborhood? We'll see. And that's when we were rock and rolling pre-COVID, it was still a struggle. There's still a small margin, which actually brings me to another point that I'm hoping gets out there. Anybody wants to spread it. In New Jersey, our liquor licenses are very different than they are in New York. And there's only so many given to each town based on their population. So it obviously makes the supply and demand very strong, the demand.
Yeah.
And they're very, very pricey to get. But obviously the margins on liquor, beer and wine and such are better than food. What a lot of us would love to see, and I think it would be a great thing for these small, BYOBs, is if we at least had the option of a beer and wine license, which would really help a lot of these struggling small restaurants. We realize that the liquor license, there's a huge value to those, but I think this would be a real shot in the arm for a lot of these smaller restaurants to be able to just serve beer and wine. So that could be
interesting.
a thing to help. Yeah. So just be patient.
Basically segmenting the licenses. So one is a beer and wine license and the other allows you to serve a full bar.
Right.
That's so
and you
interesting.
and you could just apply for it instead of having to, bid on them, bid against developers. It's a really tough thing. If you can even get it, it's going to be a lot of money. And so we do see them also get moved. Sometimes we know that restaurants, bars, the small businesses are the lifeblood of neighborhoods. Yeah. And when they take the liquor licenses and move them around, it does change. I would
imagine there would be a lot of resistance from someone who just paid, 6 figures for a liquor license to then open up beer and wine licenses.
So it's interesting because the studies actually show it does not hurt them at all. People that want to go out for cocktails want to go out for cocktails. The margins on liquor are so much better than on beer and wine. it really, there are so many studies that show it won't hurt them. But yeah, there's that thought, you know, if they're not really looking at the data, that it could. But the reality is, we know that the more restaurants open up, it's why they create restaurant rows. You know, it brings people to all of the restaurants. And if you give the opportunity to more restaurants to have that, it allows them to stay in business.
Yeah.
You know, it allows them to make a little bit more money so they can stay, you know, being a viable business and continue to, you know, help the community grow. So
That makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So I want to shift to real estate news for a minute. NewJersey.com just had an article that basically said, you know, from 2015 to 2019, single family home prices increased about 5% total over 4 years. And then from 2019 to 2020, it was about 12%. So basically 1 year, the increase in 1 year was double the prior 4 or 5 years. What's your take on that, Paul?
That is the COVID effect. Over the past year and a half, there's been a big shift, people coming from Hoboken, Jersey City, Brooklyn, New York City, to the suburbs. And even in Jersey City, there's a lot of demand for single family homes as well right now. So it's sort of trickling back towards that, as you know, to that area too. I also think a lot of people that were traditionally going from like New York City to Hoboken, Jersey City, or Brooklyn are just skipping that piece. They're going straight to single family homes.
Yeah.
You know, that combined with baby boomers not selling as often as they did previously, you have low inventory, a lot of demand, and things are bonkers in the suburbs. Things are going way over asking price. Some people are waiving inspections, which I would never recommend a client do, but people are desperate. You know, if you lose enough offers, you'll do anything it takes to get a house. But
So true.
But it's important to have a realtor on your side that's going to give you guidance. And listen, if buying a house means waiving an inspection, you don't buy that house.
No, I 100% agree with that. So if you had to give a prediction for what the next year might look like, is that a number that you think is going to come down? You know,
Yes.
I tend to think that everything returns to the mean, or you think that there's going to be some sort of stability at that level over the next year?
We're already kind of seeing it in Hudson County, whereas last year the market, it wasn't soft, but it was softer than usual.
Yeah.
But so far this spring, I can tell you that bidding activity in Hoboken, Jersey City, you know, closer to the city is way up. And especially single family homes, anything with outdoor space, you know, I think people are gearing up to going back to the office. I think some people are already back, but I think that as we get closer to the fall, I think more people are going to be coming back to Hudson County for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. So do you think that will force, you know, the sort of general single family home price down?
Maybe a bit. I think there's still going to be demand just because there's not that much inventory. You know, the market really, there's sort of two markets, whether it be Hudson County or the suburbs. It's done and not done. Anything that's done there's, you know, and by done, I mean renovated. So if it's like in the past 5 years, if it's been renovated, there's a tremendous amount of interest and people are willing to pay for something that's move-in ready. But something that needs a lot of work is obviously totally different market.
Especially with what's going on with lumber prices. It's just renovation costs have gone up so much that there's a lot of value, I think, to being in something that is move-in ready.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to see that Hudson County, I mean, we saw it with the larger homes as well. When the dip that we saw the most, I think, were the smaller units throughout, certainly in Jersey City. The larger stuff was still moving. I think that the people that missed out, I mean, when you have bidding wars of 20, 30, 40 people bidding on one home, those people are still out there. And as people are starting to feel more secure, safer, their offices are going to be reopening after all. You know, just out of sheer, they just didn't have the opportunity to buy. I think those people are going to revisit Hudson County again, and it's going to, you know, again be one of the highest, you know, growing areas
Yeah,
in
so,
Jersey.
so it sounds like what you're kind of saying is that the growth that maybe didn't hit Hudson County quite as much, right? Because it's a little more urban. We're now seeing that, and I think it'd be interesting to see what happens in the single family market, which is certainly many single family homes in Hudson County, but probably more, further in the suburbs and South Jersey and other components. And I know a lot of people obviously moved out there in the middle of the pandemic when it was great to have a backyard and space. But as the state opens up, which I believe is it today? Was yesterday for New York City?
Yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
And so as that happens, everybody sort of, maybe people question their decision to live an hour away from the office.
A good example, Phil, a
Yeah.
single family in Hoboken just sold for $5.2 million.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a record. I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything that's close. But again, it was a $2 million renovation. It was the COO of Volkswagen America that owned the property, and he sold it. I don't know where he was relocating to, but yeah, $5.2 million cash in Hoboken.
Wow. That is quite a high price for
Crazy.
For a home there.
I think we'll see a lot of activity along the shore as well, the Jersey Shore. It's that time of year anyway, normally.
Mhm.
And, I think that there's a lot of people that are still looking to move down that way as we're getting into summer. And we do have agents that work down there as well.
Yeah, we should maybe next week's episode will be Jersey Shore.
There you go.
Perfect. So sort of wrapping up, what is happening around town this weekend, Natalie?
So, I think Paul and I are both, live music is opening back up. They're doing some great stuff outside. Corgi Spirits, which is a distillery here in Jersey City. They have live music. I know starting tomorrow, they've got at 7 p.m., they've got a nice few groups playing. So if you want to go out tomorrow, I'm definitely going to be going, seeing some live music there. Smorgasbord is going to be starting on the weekends down by Harborside.
That's right.
And that's a food festival every weekend. So we're excited about that. Groove on Grove announced that they will be starting up again in June, which is it's right at the Grove Street Path. They do a lot of stuff in that plaza, and they do it every Wednesday in the summer, and they have local bands that come out and play, and you can just go out as the community and listen to them and hang out and grab a slice or go to dinner, and it's nice to see the music coming back.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And Paul?
Yeah, so the Hoboken Pilsner House and Beer Garden uptown is going to be having live music for like the next week or so. 9 bands in 3 days or something like that. Really cool outdoor seating. I think a lot of people are still a little bit skittish about being inside. So anywhere that has outdoor seating is a big plus, and obviously a lot of beer.
That's awesome. Wow. And for those of us from New Jersey, are we not surprised to learn that New Jersey was just named the best state for pizza from Food and Wine?
A little bit, but pizza's great. I mean, Raza in Jersey City was voted the best pizza place in New York City, which is, or actually in the country, number 1 or 2. So pizza's good.
Wow.
Yeah, I came back from a little bit of time away, and the first thing I wanted was my local Low Fidelity pizza. We raced in at the last minute with the kitchen still open. So we've got a lot of great pizza. Lo-Fi's right down the street. They've got Bread and Salt up here on Palisade Avenue. Also has gotten some national attention. I mean, our restaurants rock here.
Yeah, it's true. There are some great places. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Natalie and Paul, for joining me this morning and for these nuggets of wisdom for our audience. It's Thursday, May 13th. Tune in tonight to the 3rd episode of $1 Million Listing, and we'll watch what happens after Tyler gets to sell the mansion. So super exciting. And make sure to tune in daily at 8 a.m. to the Morning Mint. If you have any questions about buying, selling, or renting, we will put Natalie and Paul's information in the comments. And looking forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, guys.